Hello and welcome once again to another Beat the Goalie.
Part 4.
Part 4 of Between the Sticks with Lauren McGregor, Kilmarnock Football Club. Ladies goalkeeper or women's goalkeeper they call it now. Is that right, Lauren?
I think that's all name specific these days. Fireman, firefighter. It's can't have a Thomas the Tank Engine. You've got to have Tamith the Tank Engine, everything. So it's all specific now. So
well, we're going to look at 4 goalkeepers that you think are probably the best in the world. 4 of them is Hope Solo, Kristen Endler, Sarah van Veenendaal, and Lee Alexander is the Scots goalkeeper. But we're going to kick off firstly just with a quick chat because I was in Facebook the other day with Fit My Shorts and a guy from Bees got in touch and criticised women goalkeepers, says they're not good enough. How would you like to retort on that one?
well, I think I've got to back myself up here because I'm in that category. So I definitely say I think there was a premonition against them a few years ago, maybe back in the day they weren't as good, and obviously goalkeeping specific training's not been out that long. I mean, I remember I never got my first kind of goalie session till I was about 13, 14 through Colin, Ross and Fraser. So I mean, that's quite late to start now, but whereas now you can probably start 7, 8, 9, 10. I can see them all doing their sessions. So that kind of wasn't a thing back then. So to get specific coaching on position, handling, diving, crossing, it gives you more chance to learn and kind of to develop the techniques and stuff. So, but going into the women's game, it was always so they can't get to the other side of the goal, and predominantly, you know yourself, well, not including you obviously here, but most guys are taller. they've got a wee bit of height about them. So when you're talking now, I mean, especially even 10 years ago, a lot of boys and guys were picked off their height, and you can't do that in the women's game. You can't go, I need to have a 6'1" women's goalkeeper, because I could probably I think there's maybe one person who's that. I wonder, is it Christian Endler's about 6'1". He's only the kind of really, really tall keeper, and obviously being taller has its advantages. You can obviously reach more around the goal and whatever. So women tend to be a bit smaller. So for instance, like Gemma Fain, things was quite small, so it was always harder maybe to reach your top corners or your bottom corners. So there was always that kind of stigma of, oh, we've got a wee goalie in the day, just kick it long, chip it over her and all that. So and you put somebody tall in goals and you're almost like, oh, how do you beat that person? So but I think especially in the World Cup, the last Women's World Cup, it definitely showed off a lot of talents, and you've seen a lot of good goalkeepers coming through and showed that these top bins and these bottom corners, they can be saved, and it's just all about training and obviously the coaching they get. And it's nice to see it now going, that's a great save, or the keepers are actually as good as the outfielders now almost.
Yeah, I mean, going for the likes of the top corners, the postage stamps they called it, for guys like myself in particular, it was a specific type of training. It was steps, how to step, how to spring. Whereas a tall goalkeeper, it might be just one step, push, and up they go, and it would get there. Mm-hmm. Somebody like myself, it would have to be 1, 2, 3, up, and go. Also, you had to learn to anticipate it more. That was the other thing, because sometimes if you anticipate it, you knew there was going to be some sort of shot going in that area, you manoeuvred yourself into that position where you could just tip it over the bar.
Oh yeah, well that's what I'm saying. Analysis is a big thing these days. Like, we're lucky enough now, maybe not 10 years ago, but now every team we can play against, like obviously Andy and Mikey can get analysis on other teams. So if I knew I was going to play Hamilton, I'd know who would be starting up front. It could be Dion Brown or somebody, and I know what's their strong or their weak foot, or do they like coming inside, will they shoot across, will they shoot inside. You can not go to say you can read every shot, but a lot now is on analysis for goalkeepers and what they can see, and okay, it could be a good save, but see behind that good save there's 2 hours of analysis, there's 6 hours of training, there's so much, there's a lot that goes into it. And I think that is obviously, it's aiding a lot of teams now being able to obviously kind of try and read or almost predict what strikers and midfielders can do.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think the guy for Bees, we can actually say back to him and get stuffed. A load of rubbish.
I would like once the COVID away, I'd like to invite him down to a Kilmarnock game and see how it goes. So the invitation's there, Mr. B. Please come along, Rugby Park one Sunday, get free and come in and see the women's game at its finest.
You can stand beside me. I'll protect him.
You can do the other side of the goal. I will give him a bit slow, maybe.
But it brings us on to the goalkeepers themselves that you really respect and like. The first one is the American keeper, Hope Solo. Why have you picked her?
Well, obviously she's a wee bit older, so she's kind of like 39, so she's retired and stuff. But I mean, 2 Olympic gold medals, a World Cup medal, and playing obviously across in America, and obviously being American #1 for years. I think she was there for about 16 years at the national team, so not a lot of goalkeepers can say that for being in the team for so long. But she was such a I always remember, like, I actually got the chance to see her at Hampden Park when they come over and played a friendly, and you could vocally you can hear her. She's very vocal, and the presence about the box, like, you know she's there. And some of the saves she's pulling off, like, I always remember watching one. It's probably one of the famous ones. The striker hits it and it hits off her leg, and she's diving away to the other side, but she manages with every bit to get all her power and jump across and manage to save it with one hand, and then jumps back up and saves the second. It's just a amazing bit of power, and the strength and the actual ability and the agility to do that quick and that sharp, and total reaction time is phenomenal. And it's one of the best female saves I've seen. And she was always like, you would never really hear of her having a bad game. She would be solid every time, and you need that, especially if you're playing national level as well. And I just think she was the first keeper for me that really came through, and I was like, that's the start of a generation. And she's went on to inspire many young people. I remember people got up to that game and they all had the Hope Solo tops on at the time, and she did, without knowing it, she's inspired a generation for the way she was on the park.
She's a personality, very strong in the park, as you say. Her presence in the goal booth is phenomenal.
Oh no, definitely. I mean, I think it showed the fact that she did a lot of commentary in the World Cup. She was over there, in fact, when watching it, she was always in the court. So she knows a lot of stuff on the park and what to do, but she also tactically as well knows a lot, especially in her commentary off the park. She was very sound at what she knew, and especially when it came to like feedback on the goalkeepers, she was very technical, and obviously in starting positions and saves that were made, and obviously she's been around for long enough to know the game. Yeah,
and that passes on to people like yourself and other generations as well. The kind of younger generation coming through. Hope Solo, hopefully. I mean, she's still playing yet, isn't she?
I don't know. I think she's pushing. I think she's 39, 40 now. So I don't know whether she'll be that kind of tail. I know obviously goalkeepers are a rare breed. We can kind of go on a wee bit longer, but most women's teams now tend to play in AstroTurf, so they maybe no kind of last as long. But I know she's retired nationally, but whether she's hung up her gloves, I'm not so sure. But she was definitely, I mean, I still look back and can take that. I think it's always a confidence thing for me. Just being confident on the park, and that can just escalate a performance by 5-10%, and the people round about you by that as well, and it just takes your team to a different level.
The very point you mentioned there about the AstroTurf, I mean, in my day, AstroTurf was slowly coming in. Very rarely we played in anything like that at all. You might train in the winter time if there was something like that set up. And the grass is always, that was my thing. How do you find, I mean, you hear about the injuries to the back, the joints, the ankles because of the hard surface. Would you agree with that?
No, 100%. Obviously, I've worked the past wee while. I've been working quite closely with the physios. Coming back from lockdown, I've picked up 2-3 niggles and a couple of tears in my quads. And that's when I know you're getting old, because this is the first time I've had any kind of injuries, and it's obviously the wear and tear that I've been unaware of for years. I've been playing in AstroTurf since I could probably kick a ball. So even growing up, it was always, until I was maybe about 10, 11, I was always kind of grass pitches. Then I went on to AstroTurf, and you're training on that 2, 3, 4 nights a week, plus a game on a Sunday. You would maybe have the odd team that you get in a Scottish Cup game that might be in grass, and it's like a foreign world. But I think you do realise once you come back and you can feel, I mean, I know even just now my knees and my ankle were all clicky and crunching, and I'm like, I'm only 28 here, like, how's this working for me like that? So obviously I think it gets into that kind of level of I really need to start taking care of myself. And you always think at the beginning, I remember Scotland were getting, obviously they were playing Azerbaijan and they've always got an AstroTurf pitch and you would see every player pulling out and you're like, oh, for God's sake, I'd break a left arm to play for my country. But I suppose if it's going to affect your playing club level or you pick up your most sustained injury, then you get it. I mean, I've grown up with it, so I like playing in AstroTurf, but and a lot of the girls would say the same, and I probably would prefer to play on that now. Taking back to grass would be like a totally new game, especially that you know yourself. It's the way the ball about how much quicker it is on Astro to grass now. So it would be like playing a new game. But as I said before, like I think the older you get, you need to start watching with AstroTurf.
Yeah, and the bounce of the ball as well, and also any sort of low direct shot and it hits the ground, it just seems to kind of skid and travel faster.
Oh yeah, I mean your reactions. I mean I'm lucky. Obviously, we train in AstroTurf, so you get used to that building the reactions. And sometimes if it takes a bump in grass, it could slow it. So you're having to adjust your body and your angles all the time. But I think AstroTurf's such a different game and it's so much quicker. But obviously when in the summer it's the complete opposite. It's so dry. But I've seen it many times before. You have your first half, it's bone dry. Your second half, it's torrential rain, and the game changes. It's just, and you always constantly have to think: is it how much quicker? Do I need to go higher? Do I need to go shorter? Just always analysing. So it does. I would say it makes you think more on an AstroTurf part than playing in grass.
Well, we're going to come to your next one. It's Christian Endler. Now, why have you picked her?
So this is who I was talking about earlier. So she's well, for a woman, she's tall as well. So I think she'd be quite intimidating to play against if I was a striker. I think she's about 6'1" if I remember rightly. She's the one that was highlighted in the World Cup. So Hope Solo was praising her quite a lot. She pulled off some tremendous saves, and I think there was a call, I think at one point a couple of years ago, they should make the goals, or what Hope Solo said, they should make the goals smaller for women. And I think she proved a point at the World Cup that the goals don't need to be smaller. Like, she was covering a goal, left, right, centre, top bins, bottom corners, she had it all covered. And she was kind of really stood out for me that year. She's Chilean, is that the correct term? So she's from Chile, but she got signed for PSG a couple of years ago. But she's extremely agile to cover a goal for that size as well. And she came across for me in that World Cup, and I think she's been playing well since.
When I watch some of the footage there, I mean, she reminds me a wee bit of Van der Sar. You know, that she's got that look about her, the kind of commanding, the agile, kind of tall, skinny. Just to cover the full goal. And if you look back at some of the shots, I think even a guy would be proud to save some of them. So it was really good. It was really good to see. So she was probably one of the upcoming again. She's probably at her peak, being about 29. She's able to kind of come into her full form now and hopefully get the kind of best years. Yeah. The next one, I struggle a wee bit to. Sarah Venendale. If I start right.
That's a tongue twister after you've had a few beers, right enough.
After New Year.
I'm just going to call her SVG for short because it sounds a lot better. I don't want to upset her here by calling her a name and get a letter through my door saying you never call me that name right. So SVG. Again, that kind of peak age, about 29, 30. So she's the Holland goalkeeper. She's currently at PSV. So I've seen her play a couple of times, and again, she's a great shot stopper. So I kind of caught my eye about that. Sometimes women's game you can have sometimes quite passive, but I felt as if she was coming out, making herself look big again. What the other goalkeeper showed, very commanding, in charge of her area, would come out and take crosses all day long. And she, when I seen her, for me, I was like that definitely up there with one of the kind of better goalkeepers of our generation.
She's quite an aggressive kind of personality in the goals. You know, quite intimidating looking when she comes out. You know, she's quite confident that way.
Oh yeah, I think she'd be one of those players that would always kind of leave a wee extra in, as they say, just to kind of let the other team know that she's there, and it'll never just have a free moment. Which probably kind of says obviously why she's playing in the national team. And I think she'll come off her line, like she's not scared to go past the 18-yard box, whereas some goalkeepers now think, oh, I need to go back, protect my goal, but sometimes you're actually protecting your goal playing that extra 5 or 10 yards higher up.
We've talked about, you know, the player, the Russian centre forward coming right in towards you in the midfield, then hitting your sort of penalty area. When you come out to block, there's a style just now that it's a kind of star shape that the goalkeepers tend to put up. But I've noticed, you know, that in your game, you tend to use anything at all to block that shot. You will use the star style as well, but there was a game I remember at Rugby Park where somebody broke through, and I can't remember, it was a sweeper had jumped across you, and you went straight down and blocked it with your legs, which is unorthodox nowadays.
I suppose it's just judgment. I mean, I was always told by the bloke, like, always go with your hands, but sometimes, especially if it obviously outside the area, you've got to go with your feet. But yeah, just depends. Sometimes if it's wider, I'll kind of maybe go with my feet, or if I don't think I'm going to make it with my hands, if I'm maybe overstretching, I'd rather get a clean bit on it with my feet. But it's anything to protect your goal. But there's times you need the star, like the star shape seems to be quite popular. If I need to use it, I'll use it, but I think it leaves you quite open sometimes, very vulnerable for that ball through the legs, and it's a goal. So, but everybody's got their own styles. I'll try and come out, shut them down, and kind of let them. Sometimes, if you put it in their mind, you can almost kind of try and read what they're going to do. So it gives you that kind of extra wee second. But she'll literally jump in front of anything. She'll make herself as big as she can, and she's one of the better goalkeepers.
And it's getting in there before that player hits that shot. It's just timing it to the point where they're going to hit it, but you're there before they even hit it. So you're actually acting as a wall to rebound.
The closer you are, I mean, it's harder for them to hit it round you when you're 2 feet away. So if you're already 2 feet away, you're running. But if you're maybe 5 or 6 feet, they've got that chance to go, right, I'm going to hit it round you, I'm going to dink it over the top. They've got that mind decision. But if you're coming out, you're making them make the decision. So you can almost plant to go, I know where you're going to go, because you've not got any other option but to go that way. And then you're almost going down before you even think about it. So it's almost like a reaction cycle of, you push them wide, you go down, you slide, you get it. But again, it's years of experience in place. You never learn that in training or games, because training's training, but it's in games you learn how the different mentality of people work. And if you done me a good goal, you get done me a good goal. But 9 times out of 10, you tend to slide. Take the ball before you take the person. You feel better when they flip over your shoulder. It's great.
Yeah. Well, I used to love that. Jump over me. It was great. You just go right through them. Your last keeper, Lee Alexander, the Scots keeper. I've really recently just been introduced to seeing her. Very, very good goalkeeper. Very good reflexes, especially to her right-hand side.
Oh yeah, she's been hidden. She is a wee bit older as well. She's a year above me, but she's been hidden away, obviously, with the fact with Gemma playing for so long. Gemma's got the most amount of Scotland caps, but obviously she played all the way through, and it kind of almost hid away. So her and Shannon probably were the top 2 keepers that would always go away with the national squad all the time. So the likes of your Jenna Fife and the likes of your Lee Alexander and your Megan Cunningham, and your kind of Scottish-based ones wouldn't really get a look in. And obviously once Shelley came in and Gemma had retired, it gave these opportunities for obviously Lee and Jenna, and obviously Shannon's still in the mix as well. But obviously they 2 to come in, and I think Shelley went with predominantly Lee at first, and Lee's looked more than proved herself. The World Cup last year, she had a couple of fantastic games, and she was obviously unlucky with the last penalty. She was on a line, she did save it, and it should have counted, but it's just the way football goes. But she's doing really well at club level as well. She's been at City for years. She's been in the Champions League. She's been playing through that, and she's had a lot of good penalty shootouts. That seems to be quite a good area. She's very good at penalties, which is again probably through analysis and working at the club. But I mean, I've watched her, played against her as well. Very good goalkeeper, very fit. Always hear her talking. Handling's brilliant. Her diving, as you said, is fantastic, and it's nice to see Scotland's got a plethora of goalkeepers, and at the moment for me, Leigh Alexander's just ticking every box, and she deserves where she is and the place she's at.
It seems to be something that Scotland, we do breed good goalkeepers. In some cases, some great goalkeepers. And we're fortunate that way. I mean, why do you think that is?
I agree with you. I mean, over the years, I mean, Scotland's been blessed, and obviously Jim Stewart's maybe been a big part to deal with, and he's obviously been at the national team for a while. Before, obviously, I know Fraser, he takes the women's team, and obviously Collins at Rangers, and so I mean he's passed on a good width of experience there, and they're passing it on to more goalkeepers, obviously in the academies they run. But I honestly don't know. I mean, I would say the coaching's good over here, but you can't say about natural talent. Like, I mean, even in the guys' game, I mean, there's never been a time where there's always been a dilemma for a goalkeeper. There's always been your Alan McGregor, your Craig Gordons, your David Marshalls, like, and even going further back, like your Andy Gorhams and stuff like that. So there's never been a struggle, we can't get a number one. There's probably a struggle for the manager to go, who is number one? And even that's probably coming through now in the women's game, because you're getting more professional teams setting up that are getting more access to training and facilities, and it's obviously going to make you a better player. So that the standard then increases for goalkeepers to try and reach a level of that. So, but yeah, I think it obviously you're only as good as what your coaching's coming from. So if you're getting coached all the right things to do, then it's like anything. It's no practice makes perfect. It's practice makes permanent. So that once you've kind of learned that, I think it's something like 10,000 hours or something like that. They're still saying now, but for me, I've always learned something from each goalkeeping coach I've had, whether it's something good or negative or something to take away. But there's always something that you can use, and they, as much as the coaches are teaching you, they learn something off you as well, different ways of doing things. So, but the coaches I've had over the years, of all them combined, kind of taught me something that I use in my game every week. So, I'd probably go with the standard of coaching here. It's very, very good.
I remember when I was at 17 or 18-year-old, you know, the long jump pit.
Mm-hmm.
So sand. They used to put me in there, standing in the sand, and whack shots at me. And there's nothing worse than trying to dive when your feet's buried in sand. But see, if you step off the sand onto the grass, you just seem to spring that extra. I don't know what it is. It's like coming off a trampoline.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can be bouncing away a trampoline, you come off it and you go, way, you know, what's happening?
Well, I think that's more the stuff that's coming in now, especially I've noticed my early years to now. There's a lot of stuff I'll do now with bands. So I'll have a band around my waist, try to save things. I'm like, oh my God, this is so... But it's like a mental thing of you need to push that extra 10% to get that. So when the band comes off, you're still pushing that mentally, it's still on. So you're having to push that extra 10% to get there, but you're getting there just slightly quicker. So a lot of stuff now is all plyometric based with bands and hurdles and 1 foot, one medicine balls and catching. So a lot of stuff, obviously you're flinging a medicine ball, you're like, holy hell. But realistically, in a game, you go to fling a ball, it's going, because you're feeling as if you're having to put in that extra effort. So it's almost like playing in your mind. But I love it. I love the band stuff. It's really, really good. It's interesting, because then you get into a game and you think you're trying to kick 3,000 mile and you're only kicking like 10 yards, and I'm like, oh, trying to realise, wait a minute here, I've actually not got a band on, and I'm not kicking a missile to somebody who's 10 yards away. So my right back didn't really like me that day, but I suppose they'll go over it.
I was watching you know, the last game there the young lady that was in goals. Was it Megan you called her? It was in goals for Kilmarnock while you were off.
Morgan.
Morgan,
yeah.
It was the very beginning of the game, and before kick-off, and she was practicing her kick-outs, and I was right behind the goals. I was listening, and the young fella was up at the halfway line, and she wasn't reaching the halfway, and she walked back. I picked up the ball and rolled it. I said, "Excuse me, have you listened to yourself?" She goes, "What do you mean?" I says, "Count how many breaths you take in a run up to kicking that ball. No wonder you're not hitting the halfway line. You're puffed out." She goes, "I never noticed that." I says, "Draw your breath in and then run at it and then release your breath as soon as you hit that ball, and that'll hit the halfway line." She says, "Right, I'll try it." And she realised,
Aye.
it worked.
You don't realise how much energy you're actually losing.
All she was doing was she was running up to it going, kind of like that. And by the time she got to the ball, she was dizzy, and it wasn't going the way she wanted. And as you know, coaches, it's just wee simple, daft things like that just make a difference to your game. You can alter it a wee bit. And hopefully, as you've progressed as well, you'll be passing on all your sort of experience to the upcoming goalkeepers. And in that very point, have you any upcoming goalkeepers you could say you think are going to be internationals or top goalkeepers in the future?
It's hard with this COVID because I've not even had a chance to watch or see anybody. So, I mean, at the moment, I think everybody's in limbo. But I wouldn't see anybody yet that I could probably pinpoint and go, I think you could be a number one somewhere. Because I think a lot of clubs just now have a lot of older goalkeepers. So they're sent kind of 28, 29, 30 because it's like people are wanting experience rather than youth to make. Obviously, a lot of youth, they tend to make mistakes. So you're kind of, every team's, you kind of know who's going to be playing week in, week out. But I'm pretty sure there'll be a couple of clubs in the next few years because we can't last forever, unfortunately. That'll start sliding in the kind of younger ones and giving them a bit of kind of match time experience rather than being dropped in a wee fish in a big pond isn't a nice feeling. So hopefully the next few years we can start seeing kind of the work that's been put in just now and a couple of years before coming through. So I'm hoping that someday one day I'll be able to fill my shoes and be able to take my place and I'll be able to help them. So it's just all about timing, especially now with this COVID stuff being on and off. It'll be good to get back properly and allow the kids to come up and try and take my gloves.
They're running up the park after you.
I know. I don't think I'll be able to catch up with them now. I can't run like I did when I was 18.
Well, Lauren, I think we'll wind up at that, and thank you very much for being on the show. And hopefully the next one we're looking at is probably Rebecca Galt, the centre forward. We're going to look at some forwards. I think it'd be great to have your perspective on it as well as a goalkeeper. How you deal with forwards. Tall, thin, chunky, you know what they're like, some of them. The ones I hated, the ones that pestered you at corner kicks.
I was always good. I always left a wee stud in their calf, so I remember not to come back. Hope there's no referees watching this because it'll be happening next Sunday. So.
Well, we can forget the GoPro in the back of the goals then.
No, I wouldn't advise that. Maybe for some things, but try and put it go for the waist upwards so I'll be alright with that.
We'll see you soon then. Thanks again.
Cheers, Eddie. See you later.
Magic, thanks.